Hyper Creative, Episode 5. Welcome to Hyper Creative, where we look inside the minds of some of the most innovative artists working in artist-run culture today. I am Maeve Campbell, your host and Executive Director of the Whitewater Gallery. In this episode, Episode 5, we are taking a look at Landfall, which was an exhibition by new generation photographer Ava Margueritte. And not only that, Ava also spent the last 6 weeks here doing a micro residency alongside her exhibition. So she was with me every day. Now she can tell you about that later, but for now, I'm going to take you on a journey into the recent past. We're going to take a look at some footage from the closing reception, the finissage, and also a conversation I just had with Ava before she walked out that door right there. I miss her already.
So this body of work came out of a turbulent period of my life. I came out of extreme burnout, and when explaining this point of my life, I explained to someone that I had previous series that were very subdued and other series that were very kind of dramatic and high, and I was currently feeling somewhere in the middle. And the way I described it was, it felt like something I had listened to as a kid, which was Vivaldi's Four Seasons. So that was the original spot that I started at. And from there, during my period of mental health and being neurodivergent, I questioned and wondered where I fit in. And so with that, I built a body of work around the two spots that I retreat to and people that I retreated to. So I looked to my community and the natural environment. So using the contemporary photographic language, I built a series that looks and goes through the cycles of the four seasons. So I built it around Vivaldi's Four Seasons. So I have in the whole body of work, this is the soft launch, there will be 24 images. So we have the natural environment and portraits. And so from there, I was looking at, as I said, people and environments, but also the fluidity of nature contrasted by the rigidity of society. So from there, I built something, and what I wanted was a space that you can retreat to for feelings of contemplation and tenderness that are not often accepted within society. So I wanted a space that you can retreat to, and so for that, I went and looked, I sourced spots that brought solace and refuge to myself. So within that, I built a body of work that fit into that. So I looked to the binaries of society, and from there, I built Landfall. So Landfall means landfall is the passing of a hurricane coming in from sea. It represents the end of a journey. So this is a point of reflection, and somewhere that I look back and I understand the years that have gone by. So when I was sitting in the gallery, I was looking at all my images and I was like, well, why these images? Why these people? And what I found through looking at my work was I retreated to people who are in my community in Ottawa, but I still find comfort in aspects of North Bay from home. So I found that very interesting, and it really informed how we grow and evolve without realizing that we're growing and evolving. And you only know within looking. For example, like I've made this work since last June, and already from there I noticed certain patterns in myself that have changed. So my medium is I photograph all on medium format analog photography. So I take that, I drop it off at developer. It's a bit too dangerous because it's all open chemical. And then I take it home and I scan. And the scanning is really the first phase of the post-production process. So when I post-produce, I'm not looking through a documentary lens, I'm looking through a post-documentary lens. So I am looking within myself to feel what I felt in the moment. So, for example, while this was read in the moment that I was there, I may enhance and bring it out in ways that feel true to what I'm trying to convey in my work. So from there, a small offhanded comment to a colleague turned into a full-blown massive undertaking. And yeah, so thank you for coming out.
And now for something completely different, my dialogue with Ava. So, here we are. It is September 6th, 2025, last day of Landfall, the last day of the residency here at Whitewater Gallery. So, how do you feel having now completed the residency and the exhibition?
Oh, it's been great. Like, yeah, it was I think as I've spoken about, it was a really wonderful experience to come back, home, and great community support. It was such a great time to work on my next exhibition that's just coming up in a few weeks. Shameless plug of the Shankman Center.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you. So yeah, right now, tell the people. So
so September 15th to November 7th, I'll have, this has been a soft launch of the work, but I'll have the whole exhibition on display at the Shankman Art Center in Orleans, and there will be 24 images, which feels a bit intense, but it's a project I've worked on for quite some time now. And yeah, so this was the soft launch here, and it's been great. I think actually one of the things I appreciated the most was speaking to people about the work. Like, people had some very insightful questions that, especially when it comes to the pairing of the images, I was going
to ask you actually, like, what was the most asked question?
Well, probably how did I pair the images? And there were things that visually, I sat with the work for so long and I thought about it, and you study, like, I've been studying photography for well over a decade now, so a lot of it is rooted in contemporary photography, so it's very intuitive to me. But a lot of people are like, well, why would you put this with this? And it made me think about, like, the color and composition, and some are less obvious, some are more literal, and yeah, a lot of great prompts about why I'm making work like this, and also just talking about the work as well.
Is there something that you wish people had asked if they didn't?
Oh.
Or maybe they covered it all.
I mean,
it did run the gamut. Having
Yeah.
just sort of sitting here and listening as it was happening, it definitely ran the gamut. So
Yeah. There were like a variety of questions as well, like, you know, why these places. It would have been great if there were some photo nerds that came out, but I didn't. I actually met a few. That was great. A few. But actually, yeah, a lot of great questions that covered things. So people are asking me about the location and who these people were, and honestly, a lot of questions that, you know, were easy to answer, but also a wide variety of things that I had to explain that I'd been thinking about, but it's not necessarily in my artist statement, and yeah.
Well, speaking of photo nerds and technology, what do you use? What camera do you use? What's your equipment?
Yeah.
And maybe what's your dream camera?
See, that's the thing. I'm not as into, like, I use the camera as a tool. I'm not into like latest. So I've worked with digital photography, and so a lot of my earlier self-portrait work was very much focused on that. I'll still use digital. The camera that I use for Landfall is a medium format twin lens, and so the thing that works really well for me is I compose square, and someone said it to me really early on in my education, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. And then you pick up something and it's just like everything that you've been trying to reach. So I mean, dream camera would be like, it would be great if they started making like square format where you could shoot in camera, and you can, like, so I do all my digital work, you can't really tell it's digital because I am cropping and like really getting to what I'm seeing. But it was shooting with like medium format that I started working that way. And I've moved a little bit more. Now when I crop, sometimes I do 5x4. I want to move to a larger format, but I still just love that square format, so it's hard to. But I'll like drop off my film, and then I'll scan all my pieces at home, and then I work with a printer to get them to where I want. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned self-portraits in there. Now, where do you think the line is? Because of course, with new technology and smartphones and everything, you know, where is the line between a self-portrait and a selfie? Like, when do you know for you even that you have, you know, that this is now art, like that you have committed art?
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's like, so when I was younger, like I had started to do more self-portraiture work, but the language wasn't there. So I was taking photos, and I think like I was at a time like 15 or maybe 16, 17, and I was like, I want to be pretty, I want to show it, but I wasn't like, I couldn't figure out like, you know, the traditional angles for that or whatever. So I was starting to experiment with self-portraiture. But I think it comes from understanding photographic language, and like, you know, I always refer back to Francesca Woodman. Yeah. Susie Lake as well, who like very different, like you get Francesca Woodman and it's like gritty and it's beautiful and dreamy and evocative, and then Susie Lake is very like, it's straight on but still delivering something, and still it's intention. So like my intention once I started to move into a self-portraiture, and I had some projects like even in my undergrad that were like, okay, I wasn't there, but I knew I wanted to go in a certain direction, where, you know, it wasn't until my thesis that I was like, okay, I know my references, I know what I'm looking to, and then from there that intention grows, and then you can like create things like like this, which is like a full, like on the ice, and you're thinking a bit more big picture where,
Right.
and I think there is a bit of a delicate line. It's, anyway, we're up against an algorithm now that likes white women's bodies.
Ooh, yeah.
And so you're in a weird time where, and I've noticed this recently, like, I don't even know really how to get past that algorithm, but I know that I'm not going in that direction. And so I think when there's like a lay audience who doesn't understand, it can get misinterpreted. And the camera is very accessible. It's a very accessible medium. And so it gets muddled with a lot of kind of like pedestrian work. And it's an easy entry point that doesn't require a lot of skills, but then it also, there's a lot of people that don't understand the language of it as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of entry points, now I know people like a good origin story.
Oh.
Do you remember, like the first time you picked up a camera, or like early memories of taking photographs, and sort of that moment where you were like, you know what, this is my medium?
Yeah, so I think like there were times I picked up the camera over the years. I think my mom recognized it a little more than I did, because I was just like, oh, I like the camera, whatever. But it was, we were on a family trip, and it was I think I had gone to camp earlier that summer, and someone had a camera. My like roommate had a camera, and we were just like playing around. I was like, oh yeah, this is fun. Like I like this, and just doing like nothing. I just like, I don't know, photographing markers and just anything you could find. And then we went on a family trip, and I just like, it was like discovering the land in a different way than I had seen it before. And so there's kind of that, but I had printed off a few images in like a little book, and I was sitting in math class, and I was trying to show a friend, and he was like, one second. And my teacher walked by, and he was like, did you take this? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, these are really good. And I was like, oh. And like, of course I think like, oh, I was on a trip, like of course they're good. And then I had two teachers in high school that really encouraged me to go for it. But, I was talking to someone about this recently, because another mentor was like, what's your favorite image? And you're like, oh. And
That's a big question.
Yeah, but someone put it in a interesting way. He said, I don't have favorite images, but I have pivotal moments in my, and so that's like, so this one here, that was, or maybe one before this, that was like a pivotal moment. And then there was one image of like a woman smoking, and that was a pivotal moment as well, like in my portraiture. And then now it's like nothing, there's been a few pieces in the show that are pivotal, but not in the, you get one every once in a while, you're like, okay, now I get to think like this and see things like this, and I know I can push myself in this way, and it will have, some kind of success rate, especially when you're like, I'm just talking.
That's what we're here for.
Especially in this body of work where I was very intentional with what I was shooting. So I think the landscapes, I was a little more, not loosey-goosey, but I would search for things and find things, where the portraits, like, you have 1 hour with someone, everyone has
very
busy,
specific.
Yeah, it's specific. So you get a certain thing, you're like, okay, I know this is working, I know the direction, where even with the landscape, like more fluid, more space to experiment, but I wanted to be really on. So it's great having those images that you can refer to and apply that to where you are now.
And speaking of the sort of more landscape shots that you have in this exhibition, alongside, of course, they're in diptychs, and they're alongside the portraits, which, of course, a lot of people asked you about in terms of pairing. But I was just sort of wondering, what do you feel about this sort of like body as landscape thing, you know, because I think personally, I think that your photographs are taking it a bit like a step further than body as landscape, because it's sort of because of the pairing in a way.
So, can you repeat?
Yeah,
like,
basically,
just break
yeah,
it down a
yeah,
little more.
yeah. But basically, you know, there's obviously this this sort of term that is body as landscape in particularly photography, but also painting, etc. And how do you feel like in terms of the portraits you're doing? Do you feel like there is an echo of nature within that as well?
Oh, yeah. And like, that's why I did everything outside as well, to have those like links. I think it would be quite a stark contrast if they were in a studio.
Absolutely.
Part of my thing is, and like, I believe this, it's not science, I can't prove it, but I think I see light in an interesting way. And
I think you have to be a good photographer.
Yeah. And like, you can do really, I've never been a studio gal, so I was like, okay, how do I work with the things that I have, the things that I like, the things that I feel connected to? But like, they do have this something. And a comment I heard at least a few times was people were like, they felt something within the portraits, which I think, and like, I feel it when I'm photographing people, like, there is a moment when you hit the shutter and you're like, okay, like, there was something there, like energy or something that you're in like this pocket of time and space, and it's
so it's something you know when you hit the shutter, not necessarily when you're, you know, looking at the film later and editing. And
sometimes,
is it often the fact that you sort of know when you take the shot that, yep, that was the one?
Yeah. So it's a very it's very visceral for me. So I feel it in my body, I feel it like in my eyes. Wow. Particularly.
I love that.
And it's and you see things, and I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know if like the people I'm sitting with feel it, or if it's just like me, but there's a moment, and I usually know before I develop my film exactly which image I'm going to use. And I take a few because, you know, it's calming people down in front of the camera. Sure. It's getting them comfortable. Some people blink or, you know, I have to remember certain things, but there's like, I don't want to call it like it's not a transaction, but it's something very intimate, but in a different form of intimacy, which I think comes through in the images as well. And then when you have 12 images of people, you're like, I found a little intimate moment with everybody. But it's very, and I don't, when I take people into my space, whether it's photographically or in my home, like I don't take that lightly. So, you know, there's a certain like person that I bring in, so it is kind of these curated people as well, of energy and sense of things. So just randomly.
As you should on this topic. In terms of what you were drawing on when you began this project, Landfall, I know at the finissage you mentioned Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and that was, you know, a bit of an inspiration for you. Have you heard of the Vivaldi effect?
No.
I know I'm not an expert. I just read this the other day that apparently listening to Vivaldi, in particular the spring movement of the Four Seasons, the first movement of spring, it improves like cognitive functioning and memory and focus.
Okay.
Things like that.
I have a terrible memory, so that has had no effect. That's interesting. Yeah, so the inspiration was, it was at an interesting period of my life, and I was talking to a colleague, and I was like one project I did in the past few years was very upbeat and like dramatic, and it was intense, and then I had another project that was very subdued, and it was like all winter, it was misty, and I was like, the past 3 years have been that. It's been these really big highs and these like low lows, and I just feel like I feel it in my stomach the way I feel when I listened to like Vivaldi's music. And so my mom and I, when I was young, used to listen to it in the car, and I remember just feeling like the violin like kind of in me, and I was like, this is what the past few years have felt like. And so I built a body of work around that, and the more I researched Vivaldi, the more I learned about like his connection with humanity and nature. And initially the project was going to be 12 portraits, and it just didn't quite have that push that I like. It wasn't enough, and it wasn't like enough within context of my work. Since the past few projects I've done have been more ambitious, like more images and shooting. Like I was like, I'm going to be doing this, so let's do this. So I used that as the premise of my series. So I wanted to do 24 images total and have a portrait and a landscape in conversation with each other. And the initial idea, and I don't know how much I've stuck to this, was 6 images in the winter, spring, fall, and summer following Vivaldi's Four Seasons. And so, you know, when I'm looking for like landscapes and like mainly landscapes, but also like lighting and people, I'm looking for those like ebbs and flows in landscape as well, and those high notes and those low notes. So when I build the series, you have a variety of things that feels like it captures like the Four Seasons, and in relation to my work, cycles and mental health. And
yeah, and mental health is very much part of the dialogue of this body of work, correct?
Yeah.
And how do you think basically being neurodivergent has affected your artwork in particular? Because I think it's, and also just as a sort of sub question, how important do you think it is to have that conversation?
Oh, I think it's very important.
It is.
I'm right. I just wrote kind of like for an article and similar things, but a lot of people, and this is something that like diagnosed at 11, great, lucky, because a lot of women don't.
That's right.
So, but I've had people say the most out-of-pocket things to me, like just insensitive, and it's like, okay, so that was insensitive, but the lack of education that we have in school systems that talk about people on different spectrums, it's like we don't have proper like understanding of neurodiverse in mental health, and also in like workspaces, like, you know, if you need resource or something, it's kind of odd, or like people don't really get it.
Oh, we have visitors. Cut! I think that there is still definitely a stigma about mental health, and that we don't really have the full language to talk about it day to day.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, what's great about your show is that it gives people, actually a visual language to sort of get into looking at mental health and how that affects us.
Yeah, and I wanted the work to be not easily digestible. Like, I do feel like there's quite a bit of nuance in the work, but it creates a space, whether you want to talk about it or not. It's like one person kind of coming forward and being like, hey, it happens and it's real and it's here, in a way that isn't like an info palette about what it is. It makes it real. It grounds it grounds me and hopefully others in reality, but it also is like engulfed in like beauty and mess, and that's okay too, because like the thing with like mental health is, it's not bad, it's just the state of like your health, where but we still need to have conversations about mental illness and mental health and taking care of that part of our body as well. So
it's an important dialogue for sure.
Yeah.
So I think we'll start to close up, but there are a couple of questions that I always ask people when they're here on Hypercreative, and one of them is, of course, you being here at the Whitewater Gallery, we are one of Canada's oldest artist-run centers. How important do you think that artist-run culture is today in our society?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's certainly like important, and especially for smaller communities, it's a great way to integrate like critical artists in different, parts of Canada, that provides support and space and and exposes people as well to different conversations that may be happening in the community, but you can't like get into a different gallery or things. And it's I think they're really important to the health of the Canadian art scene.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to agree, but I think it's just patently true.
Yeah.
And another question I like to ask, and this has sort of been a theme this year with our programming in a way, is the wildness. Because we started the year actually with a show called Wild Waysides, Queer Ecologies in the New Natural. And I sort of linked that in with the name of the gallery, Whitewater Gallery, because it's named after, of course, white water, force of nature. The founding members of the gallery, they wanted it to be like, the gallery to be like a force of nature, with these like sort of like roiling, swirling water, and basically being shit disturbers.
Yeah.
So in terms of that wild, what is your wildest art experience?
Oh my.
And you can take that to nature or not.
My wildest art experience, like in like my work, or
go anywhere you want.
Go anywhere I want. Then I'm gonna go back to this, which I photographed on real ice, December 28th, 2019. I was wearing 3 pairs of pants and was...
You have to suffer for your art.
Yeah, suffer for your art. And so we got the water, but that was on Trout Lake. So that is my wildest.
Trout Lake.
I've also jammed myself in boxes and things too for art as well. So
perfect.
Yeah, but that is my whitewater piece.
Excellent.
A lot of ice things on the table here. So yeah.
Something else I was going to ask you. Are there any sort of myths about photographs or photographers that you feel need to be addressed? I mean, there are some out there, of course. Well, unless you're actually stealing souls, you know, you can tell us.
I wouldn't tell you.
Okay.
I might be though. Myths.
Or like, you know, the camera does all the work, or like stuff like that.
A myth is having the latest, greatest technology does not make you a better photographer. You don't have to do work like other people. You will find a spot where people respond, but it does take hard work. A myth I like to debunk: photography is easy. Photography is not easy. It takes a lot of work, and God, I went from photographing gumballs on a table to, you know, this, but it also takes research and looking at art history and understanding art and the language. It's, you know, and yeah, there's a lot of bad photographs out there. There's also a lot of good ones, but it is one of the trickier mediums to navigate that noise, and yeah.
Absolutely. So the gallery, as I was mentioning, was incorporated back in 1977. In fact, on October 31st, 1977. So you share a birthday.
Yeah, I do.
Not the year, obviously, with the gallery.
I might be.
And of course, while Ava's been here doing her residency, we have sort of turned this into a Scorpio lair because, you know, so I think the way maybe we should finish this all up is to just give that, you know, 1,000-yard stare, Scorpio stare to the camera.
And tell them they better watch it, or I'll steal their souls, because I was born in 1977.
See? So, okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you for joining us for the chaos and creativity of episode 5. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us next time, won't you? And now, back to the expectant white walls of the gallery. This isn't content, it's visual poetry!